Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd say a warm evening to all of you as I welcome you all tonight to this very special, very, very special celebration. But let me very quickly recognize and welcome some of the people that are already here with us tonight.
Hey.
I'd like to welcome the very hardworking, and let me say a warm congratulations to her, the Director General of the Commission. Let me welcome Chinelo Anohu Amazu. I welcome you tonight, and congratulations. And also here with us is the former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, former Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, former Minister of Defense, Alhaji Yayali Ahmed, is also here with us tonight. I'd like to welcome you, sir. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Let me also welcome a man that has been dubbed the father of PenCom, the man whose vision drove this to this point. Please welcome warmly Mr. Fola Adeola. I welcome you. Can I have a warm round of applause for him? Thank you very much. Distinguished Senator Udo Doma is also here with us. I'd like to welcome you, Distinguished Senator. You're welcome tonight. And also here is Mr. Paul Hinks. He is the Chairman of Corporate Council on Africa. I'd like to welcome Mr. Paul Hinks. You're welcome specially tonight. In our midst is one of the two of the major players in corporate Nigeria. I'd like to welcome especially Alhaji Aliko Dangote GCON. I welcome you, sir. And also here with us is Mr. Femi Tedola, a twin brother, those moving Nigeria forward from the private sector. I'd like to welcome you especially. The Managing Director of First Bank is also here with us, Mr. Bisi Onosanya. Major players in the industry. The hard-working, visionary chairman of SEC, Otumba Funsholawal, is also here with us tonight. I'd like to welcome you, sir. You're welcome, sir. So let me welcome all of you very specially tonight. Tonight, we celebrate 10 years of PenCom. How awesome, how fruitful it has been in the last 10 years. How rewarding the last 10 years have been, not just for Nigeria, but for the pension business in our country. A decade has seen the pension sector move from a deficit of 2 trillion naira to a surplus of 4 trillion. Let me congratulate the passion, the drive, the commitment of the management led by a very worthy Director General, and all of them that has made this a wonderful 10 years. And for those that are into the significance of numbers, 10 signifies perfection. So the last 10 years have been one of perfection in the area of very wonderful management. Perfection in the area of execution of goals. Perfection in the area of ensuring that pension is serving our national economy very well. So I welcome you to what promises to be a very perfect night. This is how we'll kick off. Let me invite the woman that we're all celebrating, hardworking, committed, and dynamic. Let me welcome the Director General, Chinelo Anohu Amazu, to step forward here and formally welcome all of us to this 10-year anniversary. I'd like to welcome you.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to welcome you all to the commemorative dinner of the 10th anniversary of the pension reform in Nigeria, holding here in Lagos. We're highly honored by the presence of all our distinguished guests at tonight's occasion, amidst all your other engaging commitments. This dinner is being held as part of the commemorative activities of the 10th anniversary of the implementation of the pension reform in Nigeria, which commenced in Abuja in July 2014. You would recall that these activities were kick-started with the successful hosting by Nigeria through PenCom of the Maiden World Pension Summit, Africa Special, organized in collaboration with the World Pension Summit of Amsterdam. It was also followed by the commemorative gala dinner hosted at the Presidential Villa, Abuja, where some icons of the pension reform were recognized. It is noteworthy to mention that His Excellency, President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, GCFR, was present at both events as special guest of honor, which was indicative of the government's commitment to the pension industry and confidence in its modest accomplishments. This event, therefore, commemorates the milestone of a journey which sought to break Nigeria away from an endless cycle of despair in its pension sector and launch it into a new era of blissful retirement for all employees. This assemblage today brings together private sector leaders, the icons of the pension reform, many of which are seated before us here, and other stakeholders to celebrate as well as usher in the strategic focus of the reform as it transits into the next decade. Distinguished guests, the pension reform process commenced in 2003 with the inauguration of the Fola Adeola Pension Reform Committee by the then President Olusegun Obasanjo. The high point of the committee's recommendations was the establishment of the contributory pension scheme for both the public and private sectors through the enactment of the Pension Reform Act 2004. The reform was envisioned as a well-thought-out process of addressing a catalogue of challenges that impeded the pension administration in Nigeria, all of which could be summarized into the failure to deliver on a promise of consistent and timely income for workers at retirement. This failure came with negative consequences, foremost amongst which was untold hardship experienced by retirees, especially in the public sector, and creation of an estimated liabilities of over 2 trillion naira. The CPS was novel and seemingly ambitious at the time, and a lot doubted that the Nigeria could transit into it and implement it successfully. Today, 10 years thereafter, the scorecard is somewhat self-explanatory. This has emanated mainly from the fundamental structures on which the scheme was built. Indeed, the cardinal principle of separation of custody from management and supervision has resulted in a pension scheme with sound internal mechanism for transparency and accountability. Whereas the PFAs manage the pension funds, they do not have access to the same as custody is vested in the pension fund custodians. And the commission then ensures both parties adhere strictly to regulations governing the pension funds. The ring fencing of pension funds and regulatory non-interference has resulted in the consistent growth in a large pool of funds of over 4.5 trillion, which are currently invested in structured and safe financial instruments. A remarkable feat when compared with the estimated pension liabilities prior to the reform in 2004. The reform has also engendered a regime of regular payment of retirement benefits to all employees who retired under the scheme since 2007 without any delays, as was the practice in the old system. Since inception, 111,210 retired employees have received payouts of over 268 billion. Also, through an enhanced compliance regime, 6.26 million contributors have so far been registered into the CPS. Despite these records, we're by no means suggesting that the journey has reached its destination. We are also not unmindful of some challenges that are yet to be extinguished. For instance, issues around the old defined benefit scheme in the public sector. In addition, there are some issues cropping up during the course of the implementation of the 2004. In the quest to usher the pension reform into its second decade, a major review of the PRA 2004 was carried out, with a view to proffering solutions to the noted implementation challenges. Having undergone extensive legislative scrutiny, the Pension Reform Act 2014 was passed in July 2014. Some of its salient provisions include the expansion of coverage for private sector employees, upward review of a minimum contribution rate geared at enhancing the adequacy of pension benefits, upward review of sanctions and penalties against infractions, informal sector participation in the scheme, standard for participation of states and local governments in the scheme, amongst others. As we focus on the implementation of these new provisions, we seek your unusual, unflinching support in order to sustain what we collectively achieved over the past 10 years. A lot of diligence was exhibited by various stakeholders, especially in the private sector, and we remain grateful for that commitment, which has resulted in concrete milestones being highlighted at the 10th anniversary today. We acknowledge once again all the icons of the pension reform for their efforts. In particular, former President Olusegun Obasanjo and the President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, all members of the Fola Adeola Committee, and indeed Fola Adeola himself, who provided excellent and committed leadership and direction for the reform, past and present members of the Senate and House committees with responsibility for pension matters, the labor unions, I'm glad to see the president right here with us, employers and pioneer executive committee of PenCom, ably represented by Dr. Musa Ibrahim. We also specially recognize the state government pension icons, comprising of states that have remained supportive throughout the decade of the contributory pension scheme from its onset and now are beneficiaries of its superior ideals. Distinguished guests, while thanking you for honoring our invitation, I have the pleasure once again, on behalf of the board, management, and staff of the PenCom, to invite you to commemorate the epoch 10th anniversary of the pension reform in Nigeria. Thank you. God bless.
Now that I shall welcome all of us to this wonderful night. Dinner is served, and I'm very sure the people responsible will begin to take us through it. As I welcome the chairman of Diamond Bank and MTN, Mr. Pascal Dozier, to this event tonight. And so, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as they start serving you your dinner tonight with the first course, let me ask that we bring the house lights slightly down as I invite you to watch this documentary on the journey so far in the last 10 years. The documentary.
Like every bright-eyed youngster, every pensioner had life all figured out. A strong career, a beautiful family, well-read children, a home to retire to in peace and relaxation. Until June 2004, every retired Nigerian's dream seemed to dissolve beneath a cloud of the word pension.
Look at those they carry from hospital to come here. They suffer too much.
Pension, as far as its Nigerian stage was concerned, had gotten a bad rap and had become synonymous with long queues, disappointment, broken promises, countless hours spent under the scorching sun only to be turned away. Before June 2004, many had come to look upon pension as a venture in futility.
When I took over the reins of government in 1999, there were a number of problems, and non-payment of pensions to those who have used their entire life to serve their country in one capacity or the other.
The political will of President Obasanjo, who clearly saw a problem, because we are not paying our pensioners. This was a problem.
The best thing that will happen to any human being is to be sure that at the end of his very active life, he has a guarantee guaranteed style of livelihood maintained, whatever standard he has set for himself.
In the past, prior to 2004, Nigeria's public sector had operated a defined benefit pension scheme, which was largely unfunded and non-contributory. Needless to say, the unfunded nature of this system led to an enormous buildup of pension debt. This government debt was estimated at more than 1 trillion naira. Retired public servants were left in a dismal emotional state of distrust, a natural response to a government they perceived had abandoned them to fate in old age.
There was bureaucracy, there was unfunding, because the British system set up a system that said, work for me and I'll pay you for the rest of your life. But they were trying to play God because they didn't put money aside to be doing the payment.
If we continued the system we had of assuming that the government would always have money to pay pensions, the defined benefit system, the country will be bankrupt one day.
One of the major aims is to see that pensioners get their pension as and when due. That's one of the essence of the Pension Reform Act. And then in addition, it is secondly a way of compulsory savings. People put aside things to be able to meet their old age.
There's no other way to go. What the colonial powers left for us, pay as you go, couldn't be sustained.
After years of a failed system, it was clear that the system needed a complete overhaul. And in June 2004, a year into its second term, the government of President Olusegun Obasanjo took key measures aimed at reversal. What was needed was a system that was sustainable and had its own blueprint, the capacity to achieve the ultimate goal of providing a stable, predictable, and adequate source of retirement income for each participant. To accomplish this, the government would have to get rid of a scheme run on defined benefits and put the future into the hands of the individual. With this vision came the Pension Reform Act 2004, and with its new pension scheme built solely on defined contribution.
When we were working in the Bureau of Public Enterprises, and our mandate was to privatize the public institutions, I think that was not when the pension issue started, but I think that's when the solution came to a head.
We realized that there were a number of problems at the BPE with companies that were being privatized, and so I was invited to put together a committee in order to do pension reform.
The management that was set up to implement the provisions of the 2004 Act, we believe we have discharged our responsibilities to the best of our ability. We have put in place what is today called the contributory pension system.
We started with one company being privatized. Then we realized there was a problem covering all companies being privatized. Then we moved to all parastatals, including those not being privatized.
Even in the private sector, everybody was let loose to do whatever they were doing. So we came up with some few solutions. So we now said, let there be a contributory pension scheme.
The contributory and mandatory nature of the scheme stipulates that employers and workers in the public sector and private sector organizations with 5 or more employees contribute 7.5% of their salaries into a retirement savings account, RSA.
He therefore mooted the idea of contributory pension scheme, which to his own judgment, and he was proved right, is going to be more sustainable than the hitherto defined benefit pension scheme which we had.
The maintenance of a retirement savings account gives the workers direct access and responsibility over their retirement savings long before retirement. The Veteran, with its natural potential for transparency and personal control, are the myriad of opportunities and benefits that were missing under the old scheme. In a bid to ensure that this is achieved within and alongside a strong regulatory environment, the 2004 administration set up the National Pension Commission, a commission built on the much-needed core principles of transparency, responsiveness, integrity, proactivity, and professionalism. Chinelo Anolu Amazu, Commission Secretary and Legal Advisor was a member of the team, whose first mandate was to provide overall regulatory and oversight function on all issues concerning pension in Nigeria. A tall order, given the skepticism and financial atmosphere of the time.
So what we had from a lot of investors were, it's either you excise the pension liabilities from these companies, or we offered you basically peanuts for them because we would be saddled with these responsibilities when we take over the company.
And it was a very, very long process, but it had to be done that way because pensions are very, very important to people. And the people who were going to manage pensions, it was critical to ensure that they were people of integrity.
PenCom's role, as we all know, is not to hold money. PenCom has only one job, safety, to make sure that the system works and to act as the person that supervises and regulates the entirety of the industry. So PenCom must continue in that role.
From July 2007, those who retired under the new scheme have started to get their benefits. And the beauty of that is that, unlike before, the process has been simplified, has been transparent. You know exactly how much you are going to get. You don't need to lobby or talk to anybody. We've never had any incident of fraud or somebody being shortchanged in terms of what is his entitlement. And that is the main reason for this reform.
To a very large extent, I must tell you that a guaranteed income for pensioners will enhance the social status of everyone at an old age. So the beggars and what have you will reduce to a very large extent in our streets.
Beyond sensitization, the Commission launched into the process of facilitating the establishment of pension fund administrators and pension asset custodians, private sector institutions necessary for the success and internal working of the direct contribution scheme. The institutions are charged with the responsibility of identifying stakeholders, facilitating the collection, recording and enforcement of contributions, processing, awarding and payments of benefits, and most important, management of funds. This is no small task, and trust is not a commodity easily sold.
Under the DB scheme, the retiree or the worker knows what he's going to get at the end, but has no contributions. Under the contributory pension scheme, you know what you're contributing, but you would only know exactly what you would get at the end of it when your total sum is in place.
The new pension scheme is contributory, unlike the old scheme, which is pay as you go, which means under the old scheme, when you retire, if there is money, if money has been budgeted, you will be paid. If there is no money, you will not be paid. But this new scheme is contributory. You contribute, and then your employer also contributes, so that at the end of the day, when you retire, your money is in your retirement savings account.
Better pension reward, because you find out that we now have the choice of deciding what to do with our funds, where to invest it. We have to do wise investment, look at what bonds should we buy, which one should we invest on. So we have the responsibility to look at how much money we can make in terms of investment, what interest will we take.
For me, the strength of the defined contribution is that you're taking a pot of money away from the employer and the employee and putting it somewhere else. So even if the employer goes bankrupt, that money is outside of the employer's control. And even for the employee, he cannot read the pot of money in advance. I say money, but of course I mean assets.
At the end of 2013, almost a decade after its inception, about 3.8 trillion naira has already been contributed by workers through their employers, a reflection of how PenCom's regulations had greatly reduced the issues and misgivings that have haunted the old scheme and trailed PenCom as well as the new scheme in its inception.
I see this is one of the greatest reforms in the past, not even just decades. In the past, since democracy came in. We have PFAs now. Each of them is employing at least 200 people. across the world. And more importantly, it has created a stringent, systematic approach to the payment of pension benefits. Unlike what obtained in the past, there has been no fraud in the 10 years of the existence of since the Contributory Pension Act was passed in 2004. There has been not one single case of fraud. And I must point out that it's not just about the caliber of people who are managing this fund. It's also about the structures put in place to prevent such occurrence.
In 2014, 10 years after the initial pension bill was passed, President Ebele Goodluck Jonathan signed into law a pension reform bill which is designed to govern and regulate the administration of the Uniform Pension Scheme for both public and private sectors in Nigeria. The 2014 Act empowers PenCom to institute criminal proceedings against employers who persistently fail to deduct and/or remit pension contributions of their employees within the stipulated time. A 10-year jail term has been prescribed for anyone that embezzles the pension funds. This provision further fortifies the pension assets against mismanagement and/or systemic risks. For millions of Nigerian workers, things are looking up. The dream to retire early and well have been rekindled, and the light at the end of their career trip is literally aglow. And for them, the current pension scheme and PenCom mean one thing for the future: hope.
I'm very proud of what they have achieved, and I encourage them to do more, to continue doing their work professionally, and continue to make Pensions Commission a public service institution worthy of emulation. I say congratulations.
Right now, for the next decade, our singular objective will be to utilize these funds, as huge as they are, and the potential for more growth into infrastructure and real estate, so that it will benefit not just the nation as a whole, but also the individual contributors.
This is a very delicate job for all of us, that we must do it with conscience, knowing fully well it is a big trust, not just of the public, of the various individuals that have contributed so far into the pension scheme. We must therefore not lose any sight in ensuring that we do not let any investor loses his money.
I wish Pension Commission every happy anniversary and every success in the years to come. Let me challenge them that 10 years from today, they should have a coverage of not 6 million Nigerians, not even 10 million Nigerians, at least to double today's coverage to between 12 and 15 million Nigerians, which they can do. And of course, the more we succeed in this area, the more we will have a reasonable quantum of money. And as I will never stop repeating, cool money that could be used for many areas of our development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That has been a wonderful journey for 10 years. And I think in order to celebrate this, I love the way Beethoven put it, of all the goodness in the world, music is the greatest. Let me invite here one of Nigeria's finest saxophonists, Yemi Sax, to just perform for a few minutes. Yemi? Is it possible, I know your hands are busy, to put your hands together for Yemi Sachs? And he exemplifies the essence of PenCom in the last 10 years. They've been very sweet music to the ears of the economy. Let me welcome some of the PenCom commissioners that are already here. I'd like to welcome Professor Mohammed Kauji Abubakar. I welcome you tonight, sir. You're welcome. Also here, Mr. Ruben Omotowa is also in our midst. You're welcome. And Prince Adesoji Olauba Efuntayo is also here. You're welcome. And so, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's now my honor and pleasure to welcome a man who is considered the father of PenCom. He drove it with excellence and dynamism. His vision is 10 years old. And for some of us who believe in symbolism of numbers, he has created what has become a perfect organization. Perfect for Nigerians, perfect for those who are retiring, perfect for the economy. So let me welcome him here. He also just finished serving the nation at the national conference. Everywhere you call upon him to serve fatherland, he has done so with gusto. Please welcome, to deliver the keynote address, please welcome here Mr. Fola Adeola.
In the absence of the chairman, National Pension Commission, I will rearrange the order of salutations tonight. I want to start by greeting Pascal G. Dozier. You can take it on account of age or on account of wealth. Both will work. Good evening, sir. I'd like to greet Ahmed Yayale, one of the only two names mentioned to me in the beginning. Welcome. And it's nice to see you out of service, less harassed. I never thought you were handsome before. Now I can see. I must greet the richest man on the continent on account of money only. Welcome, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, and the aspiring richest man. Welcome, Femi. Director General PenCom, please convey my best wishes to your chair in case he doesn't catch me talking, and is not likely to. I understand this is the keynote address. I neither have the key nor the address, but I have the note. And I'll just run through what is here. I want to congratulate you, Chinelo, on your assumption of office as substantive Director General of National Pension Commission. What scares people who have been part of the process is what happens when it transits into a totally different pair of hands. We are gratified in the sense that if you do anything out of value, you are just misbehaving because you know what is right to do. You know what it is to be done. I think that in the team, a lot of tutorial went through that any error can only be a conscious and willful damage to what has been created. So we're not afraid because we can call you up on the phone and tell you and ask you what's going on. We're happy that you are the one that will lead the journey over the next 10 years. The last 10 years have been good, which is not a guarantee that the next 10 years will be good. A lot of misunderstanding. There are so many things that cannot be said. Not that they cannot be said, but it's just not necessary. But I'll tell you the ones that can be said. In the beginning, I had just finished my work at Guarantee Trust Bank, and I decided that to assure those who were taking over from me that I had no intention of disturbing them at all. I had to relocate out of the country. I also had some childhood aspiration. I wanted to be a scholar. Knowing that I wasn't good enough in my youth, I still wanted to struggle. I therefore took up fellowship with a think tank in Washington under the auspices of Ford Foundation to carry out some researches and to produce a book. I had 2 offers at that time. Harvard University gave me an offer, but I had to produce that book in 1 year.